Hello and welcome to Super Lady Hero Hour here on FANVERSATIon. As always, I am Yael Teagle. I'm joined by the incredible Kay-B. Hello, Kay-B.
Hello, and happy belated birthday again.
Thank
Yesterday was Yael's birthday. I hope she had a fabulous day. But yes, I am Kay-B, and thank you for joining today's show. Today, we are going to get into Black Lightning, WandaVision, Superman and Lois, and The Flash, because guess what? Batwoman was on a break. But first, let's dive into some news, and we are going to kick it off with something that Yael is very excited about. The Powerpuff Girls. So they have found their 3 leads.
Yes. Just again to clarify, I am excited about these actors working, not necessarily excited about the Powerpuff Girls show. So Dove Cameron, Chloe Bennett, and I'm actually not familiar with Yana Peralt. I don't know how to pronounce that.
I'm not familiar with Yana either.
Yeah, but I do like a Y name, so good for her. And they're going to be Bubbles, Blossom, and Buttercup. We've gone back and forth on the idea of this show. It's probably not going to be great, but Chloe Bennett from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., yes. Yeah.
So I actually did not watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I do know Chloe Bennett. I think that I would be more excited if they weren't cast in kind of the stereotypical fashion, meaning like, their characters, like Buttercup is the most furious and angry of the characters, and they cast it, a Black woman in that one. So I'm like, but, if they would have just, kind of shaken it up between these 3 actors, just taking on a different role as a Powerpuff Girl, sure. But either way, I mean, this is still basically like Riverdale with powers is still the impression that I'm getting. And I guess we're just going to have to see what that good old pilot looks like and, kind of figure out where it'll go.
I totally agree with you 100%. I think one of the most infuriating things is when there is a character in a cartoon that has dark hair, they then get made into a person of color on TV when they do live action, and everyone else stays white, which is a choice. I don't get it, but it's a thing that happens. And I think it would have been much more interesting. I think Dove Cameron playing Bubbles. I think I'm remembering them correctly.
We're trying to get the order correct. Yeah.
Yeah. If I remember the cartoon correctly, Bubbles was like the dumb ditzy blonde, the like forever optimist, not the brightest one. So that I think is, for Dove Cameron to get to play that is a different thing, because usually she's like a bad girl and a meanie, which is also possible if we're looking at them being teenagers, that the dumb ditzy blonde grows up into a mean girl. Then she's playing the same character again.
I mean, they all are kind of mean, I think. Just based on kind of the description of where we're going in the live action version, it doesn't seem like any of them are friendly. Just kind of based on what they've released, I don't know that it's going to be, it's dark. They've already said it's super dark. So I kind of don't know that anyone will be friendly.
Well, I want to be optimistic. So I want to be Bubbles. I want it to be better, and we'll see what happens. That's that news. I think we'll continue to stay on top of what's happening with CW's Powerpuff Girls, mostly just out of curiosity. But the other big news, which is I'm also very excited about, as you know, we love Doom Patrol here. Well, I love Doom Patrol.
We love the first season. The second season, if we just, kill a few characters.
Well, season 3 is adding characters. Michelle Gomez, whom you might know from Doctor Who if you're a Whovian. You might also know her from The Flight Attendant recently, or Chilling Adventures of
Sabrina. Yes, I love Michelle from The Flight Attendant and also Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
It depends on where your fandom lies that you'll know her.
Yeah, I'm not a Whovian, so I actually didn't know that she was on there. But I am not a Whovian. I've seen literally one episode. So, here we are.
Well, we'll fix that. So she will be joining season 3 as a series regular. So like that's very exciting right there. As Madame Rouge. I don't know anything about this character, but I'm so stoked to see. I mean, Michelle Gomez working makes me very happy. And her on Doom Patrol, which I love, is going to be awesome. And a regular. Oh, I was so worried this news was like one episode.
Well, I'm super excited because The Flight Attendant also got renewed, and it is a bop and also on the same streaming service, HBO Max. So, we did kind of at the end of The Flight Attendant leave the door open. So I hope she's able to do both. Like, I hope that the scheduling works out because I would just love to see, Michelle and more. What a delight, especially because Chilling Adventures of Sabrina just ended. And so now, let's put Michelle in more things.
Yes. I love her so much. All right. Well, let's jump into our shows. Let's start with The Flash. Here is the quick cap for the second episode, The Speed of Thought. When Barry suddenly gains the power of speed thinking, he attempts to use his new gift to save Iris. While Barry is thrilled with his new power, Cisco is hesitant to trust it. Eva must face a shattering truth. Also.
Well, I kind of feel like Eva faced that shattering truth last time when she realized that she was actually dead and she was the mirror person. So I don't know that I agree with the end of this quick cap because I feel like we've already talked about her shattering truth. But how did you feel overall about this episode?
Overall, I don't know if you could hear all those sounds. It was an episode. I think it was trying to go back to like do a little bit more goofy-ish plays of the, a little more lighthearted with a serious topic. But the concept of Barry, his speed thinking happening while losing his emotion, I think the like reveal of why it's happening was interesting. I think the quickliness that people picked up on it, I appreciate. But I think it's odd at this point to do this story. Like we're in season 7 to do this story of him like now having speed thinking, but he loses emotion, and it kind of made him very Spock-like, or not Spock-like, but Vulcan-like. It was a choice. It was a choice, honestly. What did you think?
Yeah, so it does not bother me that this episode is where it is because I'm still, again, viewing this as the end of season 6. And every season, Barry kind of discovers a new subset of powers within his powers. So, like, that feels on brand to me, like, sure. Okay. The fact that he had to lose all of his emotion was an interesting concept that I don't think we necessarily explored in the best way. So, like, that's super interesting to me because, I mean, historically, from a comic book sense, and then even in this television series, the reason why Barry is the Flash is literally because of his heart. That's what makes him different as a superhero. That's what makes him stand out. So for him to lose that on the quest to find Iris, who, kind of essentially is his heart outside of his body, kind of missing in this other mirrorverse area, was an interesting concept. But I think for me, it's been really hard to reconcile. So like, and on one hand, I'm like, yeah, this is the end of season 6. But I can't help but thinking if it still would have made sense at the end of season 6, like this episode makes sense for season 6 for sure. But I'm wondering if they shouldn't have done it earlier, like, and kind of taken out the part of like Eva's reveal and placed that somewhere else. It just feels like, maybe his speed thought is not what helps him save Iris, but maybe he gets that power and we do something else with it. I don't know. It just felt like it was placed weird. And so technically speaking, this would have been the penultimate episode of season 6. And like, it did not feel like one to me, like at all. It just felt like a regular kind of run of the road episode. So, I think it's exciting. We got Iris back, but we knew it would be with consequences. So that's something that like I expected. Seeing Barry or Frost get additional powers in order to stop Barry could be interesting. But honestly, I feel like Frost is wildly underutilized, and I'm starting to care less and less about that character. So I just feel like, I feel like it's headed in a good direction. And I'm, again, super excited to see where season 7 goes. But we have to wrap this up. And I do think, just based on the previews from next episode, that episode is actually going to be really good. Like, finally, everything's coming to a head with Eva. Because, again, we've talked about this before. I just feel like her as a villain is still a huge question mark to me. And I'm like, still don't understand her purpose, to be quite honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. This it wasn't my favorite.
Same.
There also one of my biggest complaints about the show, and I've said it before. Specifically, I've said it to Grant Gustin, was this idea that there's a secret, and the team has already said we're not going to keep secrets from each other. And then they keep the secret, and then it blows up in their face. So when he was running through the simulation of like, who should he choose to save and whether he should tell them, I was like, no, I think that if this intelligence were real, then it would have been like, this is not, keeping a secret is stupid. Making the decision without telling them is stupid. This is bad.
So something for me too, that's real interesting is that, so in the comics, like, Barry is actually a genius. He actually does not need a team. Right. And so, for him to kind of tap into this side of his intelligence on this episode was really interesting to me, because we've kind of been wanting him to get there. Like, not saying that I want to see him without a team on the show, but I do think that, like, to a degree, Barry is kind of a not as wise and intelligent as he is in the comics. Like, he could be. Like, there's a lot of growth that could go in that direction on the TV show. And so I'm interested in just seeing more of that, I'm guessing that there's going to have to be some balance, obviously between emotional and intelligence when they figure out kind of what's going on with him, for sure. And, Carlos does his, and Cisco does his thing and kind of tweaks it. So I'm hoping that we get kind of a more intelligence charge Barry kind of going forward. Cause that's how he is in the comics. So it would be really nice to see him having kind of that additional, and people being like, oh, because oftentimes he can solve a lot of things by himself, and not because he's the Flash. It's like, no, it's just because he's really smart. And so I would like to see more of that for sure.
I thought that he was smart. Like, he was, he does sciencey things. I always thought he was smart. So you're right. And I do like the way when it first started and he was like figuring things out very quickly. I thought that was very fun. Yes. I also, like I said, I think that the twist that it then being tied to this Speed Force that they made, and that they tried to, because they didn't want to do what Reverse Flash did, and they did it without him. I think that was interesting.
Yes.
So like the beginning and the end were interesting.
I don't care about the wells. Let's move forward with the wells. If we don't have any more wells, I'm okay. I love Tom Cavanaugh, but if we don't, it's fine. But who knows what's going to happen. And so what are you rating this episode of The Flash? I think I know, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm giving it a spoon. I didn't hate it, didn't love it. It existed. What about you?
Spoon. Yeah, spoon. I mean, it wasn't terrible. Like, I do think there were some interesting concepts that they finally brought to life, but like, yeah. And there we go. So what are your predictions for the season 6 finale, aka season 7, episode 3?
I think we wrap up this Mirrorverse shenanigans. We move it along. I also think we're going to trim the team. Last episode, Cisco and Frost were gone. And this week, the new kid was gone. Chester, I think.
Chester.
Yeah. And Allegra was there for a bit. But like, I think our team has gotten big. And I think that the show, based on how they've done these 2 episodes, I don't think they can handle all of these people. And so they're going to trim the fat. That's my prediction. What do you think?
I will say one of my kind of least favorite things that they're doing right now is explaining every time someone's gone. It's like, no one cares where they are. Like, there's always some dialogue like, Frost is here, you know, Cisco is here. Like this time, Chester was at his grandmother's house, and I was like, nobody cares where Chester is. Like, let's just kind of move it along. Not saying he's a bad character. It's just that like no one's really actually thinking, where's Chester? Because the team is so large, like we just know not everyone's there.
But I disagree. I do like that. I do need where they are.
Because I was like, oh, Chester's not here. Let's move it forward. You know, like Cisco's not here. Let's move it forward. But I always adore Cisco and want more of him. But I don't know. You know, I feel like the repercussions of the Mirrorverse will be kind of set in the episode. So whatever happened, because, you know, there's always something that happens in the finale that basically is like causes a long-term impact or effect. So I think we're going to get to see that next episode. And Eva will die. I mean, I guess that's my prediction, is that Eva's going to die again, because technically she's already dead. But this version of Eva will die, or I guess be wrapped up in a mirror forever. So.
All right, let's move it along to Superman and Lois.
Yes. So, okay, let's dive into Superman and Lois. Here is the quick cap for the third episode. The perks of not being a wallflower. Clark shares some of his Kryptonian history with Jordan and Jonathan during a family breakfast. Meanwhile, Lois and Chrissy dig deeper to uncover the truth about Morgan Edge. So this episode I thought was pretty solid. I mean, it's pretty even with all of the other ones, in my opinion. Like, they're pretty even tone. You know, we're getting kind of the teenage angsty drama, but we're getting the parents kind of doing their own thing. Clark is still very much learning how to be a father, which might sound weird for people, but it is, you know, even though they're 14, he's still learning how to be a dad. He's still learning how to be, I guess, domesticated in a sense, because the only person working is Lois. Lois is trying to get into the groove of, you know, working with Chrissy and working at this new newspaper. And we've said time and time again that the stories find her. Well, Danger also finds Lois in this episode, because it was so funny when she's like talking to Clark and she's like, I can't believe someone already tried to set my car on fire. And I was like, girl, no one tried. They succeeded. Like, your car is gone. Like, they definitely, you have no car. Like, that's it. So, you know, Danger always tends to find her. I will say it seems like maybe they were pretending like, you know, the Luthor character was going to be the big bad, but maybe it's more so Morgan Edge. I don't know. I'm still kind of not sure about the direction that we're going in terms of villains, but this episode makes me think that maybe like Edge is the big bad, and maybe it's something like, you know, this particular Captain Luthor is maybe working for, you know, in some capacity or working alongside. I don't know, because that hasn't been revealed. But, you know, it's something that it was good to see, is that Jordan kind of coming into his own and using football as an outlet. Like, it was a nice way to bring the guys back together after they had been literally tormenting him. But also a way for him to find something. I do feel bad for Jonathan, though, a little bit, because it's like football is his thing. And that's, you know, what he's been doing. And I'm a firm believer, like, I have a like massive amount of twins in my family, and I'm a firm believer that they should have their own individual thing, because they are two individual people. And so it was nice for them to kind of be doing something separately. But I guess now they're about to do this together. So.
I totally agree with everything you said. I think that this Morgan Edge situation, I was not expecting him to be the big bad. I thought it was going to be something to deal with. But the fact that he's hiring powered people or has a team of high-powered people is interesting. I think it definitely helps my prediction that Morgan Edge and Captain Luthor are somehow connected, related, going to work together, one of those. I'm with you on the football thing. I thought, I totally understand Jonathan being like, this was my thing, because, you know, I get that, even not just twins, but siblings, like, you have your thing, and it's really hard when it's the thing you're good at, especially because Jonathan was really good at football. And then it turns out that his brother has powers. So like, now he has neither football nor powers, because he's like second tier quarterback. I will say this, there was a lot of football jargon, too much. There were parts where I was actually confused as to what was happening. When I watched a show have football in it, I should not hear actual football terms.
Oh my goodness, yeah. What do you think happens in football TV shows?
I've seen plenty of movies where football is a thing, but at no point am I confused about what words are being said. And I was confused during tryouts. I was very confused. Anyway.
Right. I will say it was nice to get more of Lana's kind of home situation and background. I mean, listen, I always thought that her husband was a bit of a loose cannon and quite frankly, not entirely sure why they were together. And I guess this episode really actually kind of just blew that all up. And even her kids are like, girl, we don't know why y'all are married. And maybe you should think about separating because you guys aren't good together. And so it's nice to kind of see her have just a friendship with Clark to where they can kind of talk about these things because they are parents to kids that are the same age, you know, like, I think it's nice that it's not so wrapped up in, oh, they used to date. It's like, yeah, they used to date in high school. Like we are fully grown adults with, you know, high school age kids. Like that was a very long time ago. We are able to have this kind of platonic friendship and move forward. So I liked that she was able to kind of share some things, and I'm hoping that we'll see more of that dynamic. But also maybe her husband is the villain because quite frankly, his behavior is like so erratic and he has his hands in a lot of things. And then he says all of these snide comments to Lois, like maybe if you shouldn't go after people. So I'm like, is Morgan his brother or his lover? Because the way he caps for him is just like, like you are always talking about Morgan. Like, sir, do you work for him? Like what is happening?
No, I agree. There's something there. I will say I'm really enjoying Lois's story. I do like this idea of Chrissy being like, that's not what we do. And then her being like, wait, this is what we do now. Like, I want to do this. I like Chrissy. I like her.
Well, it only took like being murdered almost 2 times. You know, it only took like a heightened sense of danger for Chrissy to be like, this is what we do. And it's like, girl, like several people almost died today. And now you're like, I'm in. It's like, it shouldn't take death, a near-death experience for you to be in.
But speaking of their near-death experience, I want to give a little shout out. I mean, the character died real quick, but the bad guy that they were fighting in the motel room, the actor is, I believe, Daniel Curtis is his name, and he was on The Flash for like an episode, but more importantly, he was Colossus in the first 3 X-Men movies, or I guess in 2 of the X-Men movies, the first ones, and then also Days of Future Past, I believe. Anyway, not the point. Point is, he's doing a lot of superhero stuff, and I think it should be shouted out here on Super Lady Hero Hour.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so how are you rating this episode of The Perks of Not Being a Wallflower?
Honestly, I enjoyed it. I'm giving it a kitten, but that kitten is very close to a spoon. Because, like, you know, it wasn't great, but it was fine. What do you think? Where are you giving it?
Yeah. For me, I actually enjoyed this episode. I like the tension between Lana and her family, so I'm going to give it a kitten. Like, I like the tension between Lana and her family. I actually really liked, you know, kind of the tension even between Jonathan and Jordan, even though, you know, it just ended up with Jordan kind of getting his way. But I also feel like Jonathan's gotten his way like their whole life. So, like, let's have Jordan, you know, experience a little something new in life. And I also like the pushback because I think that these kids are really giving Clark a run for his money. And he is truly understanding like what parenting means. And they do not like when you lie to them. And Clark found out the hard way and they used it against him. So quite frankly, I'm like, yes, go ahead, teenagers, rise up against the parental unit. And even I love that Lois was like, this is what you get. Like, I mean, you know, hard lesson, Clark, figure it out. I appreciate, you know, spouses who can be transparent and honest with each other and be like, listen, since you didn't learn with me that one time you lied to me, then you learned with the kids. So yeah, I'm giving it a kitten. So what do you think is going to happen next episode, episode 4?
Next episode, more of the same. I think we're going to keep trudging along. I want this Luther thing to come back and start playing into whatever's happening in Smallville. Like I want it all to stay connected so we can move forward. I expect this show to move quickly. I don't know why, but that's what I expect.
Oh, because I don't. I actually expect the exact opposite. Like, I don't think that the Luther content will pick up until truly like the second half. Like, I think we'll see him again and they'll be dropping nuggets, but I don't think the Luther aspect will. I think the Morgan Edge will continue to be kind of the overlying theme, and will, of course, come to a head with Luther and all of those things involved. But I think for now, we're just going to have to be okay with the family drama of it all. And I think next episode, we can expect more family drama. And so I don't necessarily predict that will have like something to do with these larger villains, in the way that like I think that you hope, in the sense that it goes fast. But
all right, well,
so let's get into Black Lightning. Or I'm sorry, WandaVision. My bad. Go girl.
I mean, we can do whichever one you'd like.
Let's do Wanda.
All right, WandaVision. This is the series finale, called the series finale. The events of WandaVision come to a head, and the destinies of all those who took part are determined. Oh my goodness. I'm very happy. I think this was wonderful. I think this was great. It was very enjoyable. I think that a lot of people let their own personal theories guide their viewing. And I think that is the weirdest way to watch a show, is to decide what's going to happen and then be upset that the show that you did not make did not do that. So I did not have any of those decisions pre-made in my head. I had no idea where we were going, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. What did you think?
So I thought this was a solid episode. I think that this episode most closely resembled the Marvel that we're used to, in terms of content. Like, this really reminded me of a Marvel feature film. I think that we got answers and then we left with more questions per every Marvel film, like literally exactly the same. I think my one point of contention was like Wanda using her body to save the twins, who are not real, but Wanda is real. And I was like, we could have picked a better choice for this, against like the police bullets. I'm like,
you mean Monica?
But otherwise, Monica, sorry, Wanda, Monica, yes. But overall, I think like we were able to kind of tackle Wanda's grief in a way that made sense. I think the monologue between Wanda and Vision right before the hex kind of overcomes them and they kind of go back into the fold was one of the most well-written scenes I've seen in a very long time. Like, the dialogue in that scene was top tier. I mean, I was like, yes. I am curious to see kind of who Monica's person in the sky is, the friend of her mother. I personally think it is Nick Fury, but I've seen kind of like a lot of other things floating around the internet. And I'm actually super glad that, what appears to be happening is that Agatha will be around to be an ally later on, similar to the comics where they do form a friendship because Wanda does need to learn. Because at the end of the day, Wanda is a baby witch. Like, that's the reality. She does not know anything. And Agatha has been around for at minimum 400 years and has been studying for at minimum 400 years and is definitely, the head witch in that regard in terms of learning and teaching. She's not the head witch as we see in the coven, so to speak. But, she can teach Wanda a lot. And so, the fact that Wanda has just kind of put her to sleep essentially until she needs her, is going to be, I think, an interesting concept that we see play out in Spider-Man and or Doctor Strange. And so I'm looking forward to that. And then the final, Wanda can astral project while awake, which we have not seen before. So Doctor Strange can do it, but he has to be asleep. And so that's the difference between their powers. And that's what makes Wanda already more powerful, is the fact that she's awake and doing it. Girl was making tea and also astral projecting, which like is wild, and also sets her up to be the most powerful Avenger. So I'm curious to see like what happens for sure.
Yeah, all of that. Let's rate it. I think we're ready to rate this episode. I would say I know where we're at, but what would you rate this episode?
I think we know that we're kittens here in this episode. I think it was pretty well done for sure. I mean, obviously there are things that I wanted more of, like, but there's just no time. So unless it was supersized, there wouldn't have been time to see more of Dr. Darcy and her contributions in the final moments. You know, there wasn't time to see, you know, kind of Monica do more than I think kind of come in, come out, you know, like I wanted to see more, but at the end of the day, this story is about Wanda, and it's about her grief and her journey and where she goes from here, and the sacrifices that she makes. So, and I thought that was really well done. So, I mean, I know you're on the same page, but you know, go ahead.
Honestly, just kittens. It's a great ride. It's a great story. It's a great self-contained little situation. I think it's really enjoyable. I cannot wait to rewatch it from top to bottom. I really loved everything about it. And I'm sure there are more, as more content comes out, we'll be able to come back and be like, oh my God, tiny little Easter egg there, tiny little, you know, tease. And I can't wait for all that. It just, I think it is exactly what it needed to be.
I will 100% though not rewatch from top to bottom, at least not right now. Like I feel like I've seen it enough, and I've had to watch it. Like I've had to watch every episode at least twice just to kind of, you know, get my thoughts. So because I've already done that, I'm like, no, I think I'll probably watch it from top to bottom again once we get closer to Spider-Man, because then I think I'll just want to know certain things in order to prepare for Spider-Man. But I don't think, like, I would not watch it soon. Probably not before 2022, if I'm being honest.
Right. I would say I did not rewatch every episode. So I think that's why I'm like, ooh, I'd love to see it just flow. Right. But yeah, let's move it along to Black Lightning.
Right. Yeah, so let's talk Black Lightning. Whew, boy, did things kick up, you know, everything that we dream about every episode. Definitely happened this one. So here's a quick cap for the 5th episode, The Book of Ruin, Chapter 1. Gambi supports Black Lightning as he departs on a special mission. Meanwhile, Grace tries to persuade Anissa to let her guard down. Yeah, I mean, overall, this episode was literally 100% about finding Jennifer. Like, which makes sense because, you know, she imploded last episode. And that's their goal as parents and as a team. Like, how do we get her back? How do we get her back? So I feel like it was fast-paced moving in the sense that, like, you know, we got this special device from the Flash. He, you know, brought it on over to Jefferson, and we got what we needed. And Jefferson took that crazy, you know, trip into the ionosphere, which I think is going to come back, I will say, because, you know, it was so much power up there. I don't think that he's necessarily the same. I do think he's been altered in some ways that we just haven't discovered yet. But he takes that trip to the ionosphere and essentially collects her matter, brings it back down. And, you know, the whole time they're just waiting on this machine to basically print a copy of Jennifer. And I guess that should have been my first hint when they kept saying, we're going to print a copy, print a version. Okay. Maybe I should have been paying attention. That's all I'm going to say. We're going to get there, but maybe I should have been paying attention to that dialogue.
No, I think it's fair. I definitely thought that we had seen the last of her, but I will say I did appreciate how this episode was almost entirely focused on her, because of how much I moaned and complained last episode about how, like, her death was so
sudden,
disappointing, that, like, we're gonna just ignore it. No, it was, we then spent a whole episode worried about her being dead. So I really appreciated that. I did not see the recast coming. I thought she'd be dead. Like, I thought that that she'd be printed dead, because that was the question, right? Is this new print going to be alive or dead? I thought we were going to have a dead body and we just weren't going to see her.
So here, I have feelings about this. This entire time, you know, we've really been trying to figure out when this was going to happen, essentially, because we knew that China Anne McClain was not coming back. So it was just a matter of when, never of if with the character. And I kept saying, you know, it's interesting what's going to happen because they're doing this backdoor pilot for Painkiller.
Right.
It would be really great if we could still utilize some of these other characters, you know, kind of in that world on that show. That would be really dope. And I guess that's what they've chosen to do. But when I say that this probably is, I've never in my entirety of watching the CW verse had a secret kept this well. Because normally it's somewhere. Something is spoiled, like with Oliver and Felicity, like something, there are some nuggets. I truly did not see anything, not even like, we saw this individual on set, etc., about a recast. So like that's one, wild to me. But two, I don't know if I find it necessary. Like I think we would have been okay as a fan base to have this episode be about Jennifer and then wrap that up and then have the family deal with the grief of everything, you know, from her death in a very real way. I think it's hard to recast in a show that's ending and you're basically like, you know, trucking along in the final season. It's hard because it's also hard like with cast chemistry and it's also hard with, so I guess, I don't know, are they just going to make it feel like she's a stranger? Because technically she is, you know what I mean? Like, is that the direction we're going to go in with the rest of the episodes? I don't know. But I mean, this was truly one of the most shocking things. I really just thought we were going to be done. And this whole recast scenario is just wild to me. Also, I will be forward and say, I 1000% hate when they recast on shows, like in general. When they did it in The Fresh Prince, hated it. When they did it, like, it's like, just
That's
don't
so
act like
interesting.
we don't know. Like,
I actually loved this twist. I didn't see it coming. It, like you said, one of the best kept secrets. It reminds me of some of the cameos from the Crisis on Infinite Earths, where like those were nice surprises. But I like it. I'm interested. It was shocking. It was a twist. It was something I didn't see coming, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I like I said, I thought that we were gonna have a dead body, and I think it's more interesting this way because we've seen Jefferson's literally grieving still. And Lynn says to him, get over it, which as someone who's gone through something similar, like, no. So yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm actually very okay with it.
I just want to see what's going to happen. Also, I'm just, I want to see what's going to happen. I also just, again, like I said, I don't like recasts in general, but like I would rather just be finished, but I want to see what happens. And obviously this is no slight to the actor or the actress at all. Like I just am curious to see because we have so few episodes left in this entire series. So it is kind of an interesting thing to do. Yeah. But I mean, I guess one of the benefits of playing kind of in this superhero genre is the ability to be able to do something like this and make it work from a scientific perspective. It's one of the few genres where you can actually recast and put a scientific spin on it.
It reminds me a lot of early on in the CW verse when they switched Diggle's kid. When Diggle had a daughter and now he has a son. Like, it reminds me of that, where like the show just did it and now we have to deal. Yeah. So where do you rate this episode from Poop to Kittens?
I still like the episode. I do appreciate that it was Jennifer centered. It doesn't feel like a good farewell for China, if that makes sense. And so that's really hard to kind of reconcile because she is a fantastic human being. And obviously we know that this was her decision kind of going in before the season started. So it's no, kind of ill will or anything like that. She just wants to take a different direction creatively. But I just wish we would have had something that truly kind of honored her and the role that she's played in this series. And she's done a good job. And I just think that, the first 4 episodes of the season were just so focused on her recklessness that we just didn't get a chance to really see her kind of even grow a smidgen, kind of this season. And my thought, I guess, is that, now this next actress will come in and we'll get kind of that character growth that we've wanted. But I really would have wished we would have had an opportunity to see that kind of with China before she exited the role. So I
I
do think
understand that.
it's
Yeah.
great. And Lala, I mean, it's weird to me that like Lala's now all like, "Ooh, yes, we need Black Lightning." I'm like, okay, Lala, but here we are, and you know, Tobias still isn't dead, still somehow, somewhere, but it's still a kidnap episode. Even though every episode I'm like, let's kill Tobias. I still think it's a kidnap episode. So, what about you? How did you feel about it overall?
Overall, I'm giving it a spoon. It was fine. The twist at the end really was like a nice surprise. I did enjoy that because I didn't expect it. There was a part of the episode that like really upset me. That I'm gonna save it for my OMG moment, but like there was something in this episode that like really, really rubbed me the wrong way. So that's why I lowered it down to a kid or to a spoon.
Got it. All right. Well, so what's your prediction for next episode now that we have this recast version of Jennifer? How do you feel about it? Where do you think we can go with this new? And again, listen, I'm excited to see where this new actor goes with it. I just was not expecting it. So what do you think this new actress is going to bring to Jennifer 2.0? You know?
I mean, I think that we're going to have to deal with this strangeness and her being like, it's still me, and having to do that. And that's going to be a whole new interesting storyline. I think that it's going to take us in an interesting direction. And I think that's what the focus is going to be. And maybe it will give us more time to like say goodbye to the Jennifer that was. So that's what I think. What about you?
I do think that hopefully we'll at least get the Pierce's like grieving perspective, if that makes sense. So I don't know that, you know, everyone else will. And quite frankly, I don't know how they're going to explain this to the school. But because I'm really thinking about her going to school and then being like, this is Jennifer Pearson. Like,
she didn't go to school anyway.
Right. Well, to be fair, truly. So I am kind of curious also to see if this version of Jennifer is even superpowered. So, you know, kind of answering that question, because I don't think that we can safely assume, like, we don't know what happened during this kind of carbon printing that happened. And so I don't want to assume that this person has superpowers. So just kind of even getting to know them. And then next, because I felt like Gamby truly was acting like he did not care that Jennifer died in the ionosphere. The whole episode, I was like, okay, Gamby, but you have literally no sadness, no nothing. You told Jefferson, I think you should just expect the worst and we should just move forward. And I was just like, where's that empathy, my guy? Also, for someone who had a relationship with Jennifer, you sure are acting like she was expendable, but okay. I guess I'm curious to see how, you know, now that Jennifer 2.0 is here, how Gamby's going to react, because it seemed like he was fine with her dying, which is odd to me. So maybe next episode we'll see what that has to what he has to say about that, I guess.
Great.
So yeah. All right, so let's get to the performer of the week, which I feel like we both agree on.
Yeah. We went with Catherine Hahn, performer of the week. I think she did a really fantastic job. She was villainous. She was understandable. And then the switch, it was that switch where she like had to change. That was what sold me on it. What about you? Why Catherine?
It was when they are flying in the air and she just shifts on Wanda and is trying to put the fear in Wanda. Meanwhile, Wanda's playing chess, which I'm like, yes. Wanda's playing chess and, you know, she's using her own magic against her. But it's to the point where, you know, Agatha doesn't even realize, because she's so wrapped up in what she wants from Wanda and getting everything she wants from Wanda and underestimating her because she is a baby witch. And, you know, gets played. And it's just how quickly she shifts in emotion and how she goes from, I think Catherine goes from being the villain to being fearful to then, you know, being completely mind wiped, essentially, or, you know, like paused and put back to sleep. So I think that, you know, Catherine played off of Elizabeth Olsen so very well in this and just did a darn good job. And I'm glad that we'll be able to utilize her in the future for sure. So yeah, she definitely deserves performer of the week. hands down.
Yeah. Let's look at our style icon of the week. You can start because I think we have the same one on this as well.
Maybe, but I'm going to go with Scarlet Witch and that brand new banging suit. So I was like, yes, I think that they did a fantastic job in costume design, creating the official first suit for Scarlet Witch. It even has the M in her headpiece, and I love it. Like, I just think it's tailored so well. The colors, it's functional. I also want to say that it's not one of these suits where like it's going to be a problem for her. It's functional, and I'm like, yes, it's practical, it's functional, and it looks good. And shout out to the costume department for sure.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I was going to suggest, Anissa did look really great this episode. I did like her, jacket, but no, it's going to the new Scarlet Witch outfit. It's solid.
Yeah, I'm like, just put some pockets on it and boom, perfect.
Yes. Oh, I hope it has pockets.
All
right.
I love that we're worried about it.
I mean, it's reasonable. All right, our WTF or OMG moment of the week. There was a big shocker. So, Kay-B.
That recast. Also, I think secondary shocker for me, because we've talked about the recast enough, or a lot, I have rather. I'll speak for myself. But I think that having Iris go toe-to-toe with Barry in a different sense was also something that I was like, okay, I like seeing this dynamic, like it's Barry using his mind, essentially his mind and logic, and Iris is actually using the physicality of her body and the things that she's picked up in the Mirrorverse. So I also was not expecting that at all. And I liked that. So it's just going to be my honorable mention for the OMG, because I was not expecting Iris to be able to kind of use her mind and what she's picked up in the Mirrorverse to be able to physically like close a portal, because that's what she was doing. And I was like, oh, okay. So yes to that as well.
Yeah. The Jennifer recast was a big what moment. But during Black Lightning, as we are having a shootout with the police, the writing team decides that this is a good place to put fat jokes. And then also to have a fat man fall, say, I can't breathe. And then the cop to be like, it's because you're fat. Like, we thought that this, I recorded on my phone. I was very upset. That's my WTF were the writers thinking moment of the week. I just don't know why you would put that in at all. Sorry to bring down the episode, but that's
no. I remember the shootout, the gentleman falling. Like I remember that. I don't remember the dialogue piece, if that makes sense. But I remember the scene in my mind. No. So I mean, not only because it is insensitive, but two, it just also doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, I'm like, it is insensitive, but also it's like,
yeah, no, I'm with you on both.
So
I
kind of like on both ends.
I think if you can make an offensive joke that is smart and funny, I'll let it slide. This wasn't it. This was neither smart nor funny, and it was offensive. Anyway, that's our show.
We made it. Technical difficulties, internet literally crashing and all, still made it somehow. Yeah. So, apologies for this lag in the video when you watch later, where it's literally just Yael chatting with herself and, me disappearing constantly like the apparent ghost that I am. So all these years of watching Casper, and look what happens. So, yes, Yael, where can everyone find you? What are you up to through the end of this week?
I'm everywhere at Yael Teagle. That's YAELTYGIEL. I have a new podcast that dropped last week, and another episode will be dropping next week called Have You Tried Not Being a Podcast? It is a queer pop culture podcast. You can check it out over on that hashtag show. Streaming Wars is also on that hashtag show. And this Sunday, Law and Order S Review is going to be at a new time. We are going to be at noon for a special episode with a guest. I'm very excited. So check that out here on FANVERSATION. Make sure you've subscribed so you don't miss any of this show or that one. Kay-B, where are you these days? What are you up to?
Hello. Yes, same place. At the Lady Kay-B, TheLadyKayB, Twitter, Instagram. Those are the only social media I'm on. Maybe one day I'll join Twitch. But until then, you can follow me and I will be dropping any content that I have. And if you have not caught up on season 2 of the Color Grade podcast, you can listen to it now on all of your preferred listening platforms. We had 2 episodes drop this week. That's right. 2 episodes. One where we are chatting about the film Run, which is available on, Run Time. We did also talk about Run though, so that's why my mind is like that. So you can check out our episode about Run first, which is also on Hulu. And then you can also check out our episode about Time, the documentary that is on Amazon. Both are great films in their own right. And then also you can listen to my interview with Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., about his role in, creating and helping to produce Judas and the Black Messiah, which is an extraordinary film. And Daniel Kaluuya is getting all of the must-do praise because, boy, no one's touching him when it comes to acting. So, yes, check out that for sure. And, you just have to follow along to see what's next. But most importantly, subscribe. Watch us on Super Lady Hero Hour. We will be back next Wednesday. Hopefully sans internet problems, but I can't make any promises. But I can promise that we will be back at 4 p.m. PT, 7 p.m. ET next Wednesday to talk about everything except WandaVision because it's done. But join us. I know, right?
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.